Well, we've got another update from Sheriff Nanos, and he is unilaterally clearing the entire Guthrie family in a shocking plot twist. Plus, later in the show, I've got on a True Crime Pro. He goes by Nerdy Addict, and he's going to be weighing in some hot takes today because we got some updates in the last 24 hours, and I can promise you none of them make sense, but I'm here to help make sense of them for you. This is No Filter with Zack Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. What's going on, guys? Welcome on in. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, February 17th. Day 17 since Nancy Benet Ramsey, as I like to call her now. It has been 17 days since we lost Nancy Benet Ramsey. We don't know what happened to her. There are some theories. There are some ideas. And Sheriff Nanos, you would think, as the lead sheriff on the case, is bringing some clarity. But if anything, it's quite the opposite. He's bringing the opposite of clarity. He's bringing disclarity. He's bringing muddy waters. He's bringing a whole lot of nothing. Kind of similar to like when we did our initial press conferences. Remember, we would stream the press conferences live on the show, and we were waiting for on the edge of our seats, just waiting for updates from Sheriff Nanos. Well, not anymore, because he hasn't done a single press conference, but he's been running to the press like it's nobody's business. So I'm just going to recap everything that has happened in the last 24 hours, because obviously we didn't have a live stream yesterday. The show was pre-recorded, which is totally fine. But I'm going to recap everything, give you my thoughts, my ideas, my vibes, and then you can, from there, we will dive into, we'll have Nerdy come on and he'll give some more additional insight based off of what he thinks. But also, before that, sorry, my mind is a little all over the place because I'm trying to find topics that are not Nancy Guthrie, because we've been in a Nancy Guthrie rabbit hole for the past 17 days now. And I was on TikTok and I saw a video about mahjong. And obviously the other day we saw Blake Lively was playing mahjong in court. And I just realized and then Donna was telling me that she was playing mahjong the other night and it was so fun. And I'm like, what is mahjong? I don't know what that is. It's like pickleball. Don't know what that is. And I honestly have no real interest. I don't know what mahjong is. What is mahjong? I'm assuming a game, like a board game, but it kind of, you know what it's giving? It's giving cultural appropriation. Okay. I don't know what culture it's giving from. I'm not going to guess because I'm not trying to get canceled today, but why are we trying to make mahjong a thing? When did mahjong who made mahjong a thing is what I want to know. Who was this, a Taylor Swift thing where she's just like, I'm going to mahjong all around town. I'm going to show you mahjong all around town. I don't know what it is. I'm not a big fan of mahjong. I've never played it, but it's like pickleball. Pickleball just sounds, I'm tired of people talking about pickleball. None of them sound interesting to me. So stop trying to bring new games into my life. I am a true crime detective now. So stop trying to bring new games into my life. New games that we're making up that were old games that we just rebranded. No, thank you. Okay. My whole neighborhood of women is playing mahjong. Yeah, see, mahjong is like a white lady thing, right? All the ladies are doing it and they're having the mahjong party. And then did you see the little old lady online? Or she's not little, but she's the old lady online and she's doing mahjong fights with the other old ladies in her neighborhood. They were doing mahjong fights. And I was like, oh, there's mahjong drama. And I wanted to watch the mahjong drama because everybody kept sending me the videos about the mahjong drama. But you know, when there's already a series of videos and then you're like, oh, I have to go back to the beginning and then watch the first video. And I don't have time to go back and watch the first video. I was too deep into the Nancy rabbit hole. Pickleball sounds like what you eat while you play ball. Yeah, it kind of sounds like you're eating pickles while you're playing ball. Pickleball. Also sounds a little dirty, right? You want to come play pickleball with me? I'm like, I don't want to pickle your balls. No, thank you, sir. So who's the fourth person at Annie's house? Probably Sheriff Nanos. I don't fucking know. Okay, let me give you a recap of what happened. So, because at this point, I think I may be done. I think I may have reached full peak Nancy fatigue. So as of Monday morning, February 16th, obviously today is Tuesday morning, February 17th, but as of Monday morning, February 16th, oh, wait, hold on. I have to load up all the things. Give me Give me uno momento, because I do have some updates for you. We were supposed to have a former special ops agent on the show today who was going to weigh in, but unfortunately he got called on assignment and he had to go do that. But okay. So this is where we're at. So as of Monday morning, February 16th, Sheriff Nanos has said that no one had been cleared, okay? No one has been cleared in the investigation. No one. Those were his exact words. He was doing interviews. He gave an interview to the Daily Mail. He was very specific and very clear about the fact that not one person had been cleared. And those, again, were his exact words. Actually, you know what? Better yet, I'm going to do you one better, okay? We're going to play a clip of Sheriff Nanos, and I want you to hear his exact words, okay?
Not clear. So the family, I'm going to say this real careful. They are under tremendous pressure and tremendous grief. And I think it's really irresponsible for anyone to start pointing fingers that way. They have been nothing but cooperative with us.
But I think cooperative and cleared are two different things.
I know, but the evidence will take us there if that's the case. Right now, we are working close with that family, and yeah, our hearts go out to them.
So they are not cleared as of now.
Nobody's cleared.
Okay. So that is what Sheriff Nanos originally said, or what he said as of this past weekend, okay? As of coming into Monday morning. But then, wait, it gets better. Sheriff Nanos also said this at his initial press conference.
You said you've identified no suspects. Have you ruled out anyone she was with on Saturday night?
You know, we've talked to so many. I'm sure that my investigators have feelings about this one's clear or this one isn't. But no, I wouldn't say anybody's ruled out yet, because what if I rule you out and then later I learn something else? No.
What if I rule you out and later learn something else? So no. Okay, so that's what Sheriff Nano said. Okay. All right, we're following this cohesive, narrative. Okay, we don't have any suspects. We don't know who it is. Okay, makes sense. Kind of a little suspicious. We keep going back to Annie's house. We keep collecting what appears to be evidence from Annie's house and taking photos inside of Annie's house. And we're hearing reports that Tommaso's car, Annie's car that was potentially impounded. We're hearing all of these things. We're not getting any clarity from the sheriff's department. We're not saying, yes, there was evidence collected. No, that the car was towed, or no, it wasn't towed. We're not getting any clarity on that. Why are they back at Annie's? Why are they searching all around Annie's? Why, Megyn Kelly came out and said that they were asking about a phone. They were asking the neighbors about a phone. So it's seeming like Tommaso and Annie, being the last people to have apparently seen Nancy Guthrie alive, they seem to have something, right? Well, then Sheriff Nanos decides to issue out this statement yesterday afternoon, okay? So from the initial 2 clips that you just saw from Sheriff Nanos's own mouth, where he is saying nobody has been clear, okay? Nobody's been clear, and it would be irresponsible of him to clear anybody at this point. Then he says, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. Not in the abduction, not in the video, but in this case, okay? The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. I disagree. I think the victim in this case is Nancy Guthrie, and I think Nancy Guthrie is still at large. So you should probably find the real victim, and that victim is Nancy Guthrie. So when you bring home Nancy Guthrie and you have somebody and you have a theory or you have a body, you have some evidence, then I'll take this with a little more weight. But he continues and he says, to suggest otherwise, to suggest that the family has not been cleared, is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. It was 2 weeks that we were asking for answers. It was 2 weeks that we wanted something. What is going on? What's up with the siblings? What's up with Annie? What is happening? And for weeks, For 2 weeks, he said, nobody's been cleared. I don't have any answers. Nobody's been cleared. No, no more answers. No answers. No answers. No answers. No answers. We have nothing. 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 And the only time he talks to the press is when he's trying to clear up his own reputation. And then now suddenly you give me this? Out of nowhere, suddenly the whole family, siblings and all, are cleared? What? Even his wording alone tells me that his priority is on Savannah and not on Nancy. He says in his statement, the Guthrie family to include siblings and spouses. Siblings? Whose siblings? Nancy's siblings? Does she have siblings? Have we talked to them? You should have said Nancy's children and their spouses alike, right? If you really didn't want us to believe that your priority is on Savannah. It's clear that he's enamored with this celebrity profile of this case. Siblings implies that you're focusing on Nancy's kids, not Nancy, right? He also said in another interview that he stated that he has been most in touch with Savannah and hasn't really talked to Annie and Tommaso recently. I'm sorry. What evidence do you have that has unilaterally cleared them? Because this raised some red flags, right? This was coming from Sheriff Nanos, but it wasn't coming from the FBI directly. And when Nanos was asked if it was DNA that cleared the family, his response was, and I quote, not going there. The fuck does that mean? Not going there? Was it DNA? Was it location data? Was it a polygraph? Was it evidence? Like, what evidence did you use? What facts did you use to clear the Guthrie family? Why? Because it's highly possible that it isn't Annie, Tommaso, Cameron, or Savannah on. Okay, here, I'll give it to you this. I don't believe that Annie, Tommaso, Cameron, or Savannah are on that porch, okay? I don't think any of them were physically on that porch, and I don't think any of them, if we're going with this kidnapping story, I don't think any of them took the mother out of the house physically, personally, right? But that doesn't mean that they couldn't hire somebody. That doesn't mean that they couldn't have staged a fake kidnapping. That doesn't mean that they weren't involved in some way. We don't know. Did you go through all of their phone records? Is there a missing phone? Could there have been a burner phone? Have we absolutely ruled that out? Has there been GPS data that has tracked the locations of those family members and we can confirm that that data is factual? Like, what evidence do you have that is clearing this family this strongly when a matter of hours prior, you said the exact opposite? I don't get it. To unilaterally clear this family and to make a declaration like that in the press is wild. So as of this morning, Tuesday morning, the FBI has issued a statement. This is the FBI statement when asked about Sheriff Nanos' statement. The FBI said, the FBI does not have anything to add to that. Okay, got it. They're not adding anymore, which to me tells me they don't agree with Nanos, because if they did, they would confirm it. But it also tells me that they don't want to rock the boat. Disputing his statement would cause chaos. It would cause more speculation with the amount of attention on this case. It would just further blow everything up. And I think that's the last thing that they want. So I think they're not confirming it. They're not denying it, but they don't want to rock the boat with Nanos. We've already heard that they've had a contentious relationship thus far. Therefore, I think they're just like, we're not even going to touch this. We're not going to confirm it. We're not going to deny it. We're going to continue to do our investigation because that's the responsible thing to do, is to further conduct the investigation. And Nanos' own words, as we just heard in both of those clips that we played, he's again, this is why I'm telling you, he's been in the game too long and he's too smart to be making this many rookie mistakes. But this lack of answers is what makes people run to all of these different theories. And the more time you give for them to speculate, the bigger and crazier and wild the theories get because there's no clarity. Now, again, as of this morning, they have 40 possible suspects, okay? They're going gun shop to gun shop with the book of 40 different people, hoping to get an eyewitness match. Being like, have you recognized any of these 40 people? I don't know how they're going to narrow it down that way, but okay, let's go with that. We're not going to, the family is unilaterally completely cleared. We have no leads. We have no suspects. We have no real, the DNA still isn't even ready, even though we could have sent it to Quantico to expedite the process, but we sent it to the private lab. Fine. Not going to judge the private lab, but it is a slower process. And listen, it's fine, but the case is moving so slow. And the slower it gets, the more frustrated people get because then they're not getting answers. They're not getting updates, Like at this point, the dude is gone. Whoever is on that porch is not kicking back in Tucson, sticking around, just waiting for you to match his DNA so that you can go and snatch him up. Homie is gone. He headed for the hills. When he saw the footage and then he saw that you were out there looking for his OJ glove, he is gone. Gone, gone. He's not waiting for you to come and arrest him. And they expect us to believe that this bozo left his glove? What, like he's Hansel and Gretel just leaving breadcrumbs? He's like, here you go. Here's my glove. Oh, and then also, I just bought this gun this week at the local gun shop. I just walked into the store and I got it. It's like he's begging to get caught. It's stupid. This could not have been a kidnapping. My opinion, this does not appear to be a kidnapping. Nobody steals old ladies. Way too much of a liability. That's like stealing an infant. Too much responsibility, too risky. The kidnappers never contacted the family after Nancy was taken. It was only after it was widely reported that suddenly these ransom notes start flooding in. Ransom notes appear to be fake. Otherwise, I think Savannah and the family would have paid by now. They would have paid at the beginning, right? With the 2 ransom notes, the two deadlines for which they wanted certain amounts of money in order to give them back Nancy or to give them information. I think the ransom notes were fake. And, you know, the reason we only got 1 arrest in the fake ransom notes is because I assume the others were probably international, right? It's hard to arrest somebody if they're in another country, especially if it's just over a little ransom note hoax. And even the wording from what we've heard, they were referring to USD dollars rather than, you know, like it just, if you only refer to USD if you're dealing with an international exchange. Because if you're in the US, you don't need to specify that it's USD. So to me, this whole kidnapping appears to be a hoax. I don't buy it. None of it makes any sense. And the fact that we're still going down this rabbit hole rather than looking at this for what it appears to be as some possible foul play, or at least explore that as an option. Let the public know that you're exploring all available options and let us know like what this could possibly be. Savannah asked for the public's help and the public was trying to help, but you're completely isolating the public and the media out of this. It couldn't have been a burglary gone wrong because, like I said, why take the lady? That's too much of a liability to take the lady with you. She's not easy to carry. She's elderly. She needs a cane. She needs medication. Like, it's too much of a hassle. You would just leave the body if it meant absolutely nothing to you. You'd be like, oh shit, we got to bounce. You would take the jewelry and you would head for the hills as fast as you possibly can. I believe the sheriff got pressure from Savannah to put out that statement. I don't know what form that pressure was in, whether you want to go full conspiracy and think that there was some money that was slid over to him, or whether it really is, which I think is very logical, that he's just enamored with her celebrity. He's enamored with the celebrity profile of this case, and his ego wants him to be the one to solve it. And I think he fumbled the ball quite a bit in that rose-colored glasses search in his investigation early on. So I don't buy this bizarre kidnapping story. I still think my initial theory was that Nancy was murdered. I think I presented that on the podcast pretty well yesterday. Obviously, that was before yesterday's information because it was a pre-recorded episode, but I still think that that's pretty spot on. By who? I'm not entirely sure yet, but nothing about the kidnapping story makes any sense. And Chef Nanos butchering this case at every turn. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. He's either completely incompetent or he's compromised. But at this point, he's not to be trusted. And at this rate, I fear we may never know what happened to Nancy. And that's why I keep calling her Nancy Benet Ramsey. At first, it was kind of just in jest of like, oh my God, are we really not going to have answers? And now we're getting to that point where I'm like, this is the mirroring of John Benet Ramsey all over again. And what was the theory there? That it came from somebody inside the family and it was a cover-up. I fear that that is the road we're going down again. That being said, I do want to bring on today's guest who is joining me. He's been covering the case extensively on X. He's also been streaming online as well. You've probably been following his case or getting some of his updates. He's informative. He's funny. You know him as Nerdy Addict. Please welcome Nerdy. How you doing?
Zach, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Always half the battle of these streams is making sure my audio works.
It looks great. I mean, it sounds great.
Excellent.
What are your thoughts based off of the updates that we've gotten in the last 24 hours? Obviously, here on the show, we've been covering it every day. So everybody's fully briefed for the most part, but just the clearance of the family, the report of the 40 individuals that are being investigated, the searching of the gun shops, and the fact that the DNA is still at large. DNA results.
I think so. I was listening in before I came on here in the back end, and I think it's interesting thinking about the family being cleared. The community on YouTube and the community that follows on X, we've been doing true crime cases for quite some time, and I can think of 2 cases right off the bat. There's Summer Wells from Rogersville, Tennessee. Sebastian Rogers, also from Tennessee, Hendersonville. Summer's been missing since 2021 and Sebastian since 2024. And to this day, you have creators and people in the true crime community going back and forth and pointing fingers at family members, right? And the reason I say that is because those cases have been ongoing, and never once have we heard in those cases, other cases in Florida, Vladik Hassel, we've never heard the words from law enforcement as the investigation continues that a family member has been cleared, ever, right? And that would alleviate a lot of the finger pointing. There's a lot of drama with these cases because people think it's the stepfather, it's the father, it's the mother. Similar to this case, how it started. But in none of those cases have we ever heard a family member has been cleared by law enforcement. There's another case out of Fruitland, Idaho, Michael Monkey Vaughn, who's been missing. And it wasn't until recently, until police actually started charging people outside of the family, that people laid off the family, because oftentimes in those cases, the person closest to the person missing is the first suspect, right? That doesn't always prove out in court or later on. We've seen similar cases earlier this year where in Alabama, I think it was Jonathan Boley went missing, and everyone assumed, because the father was, I guess, into drugs, and people assumed it was him. He got arrested. He got nabbed by police for other charges, but turns out he wasn't involved. But the majority of cases that we see, we don't see law enforcement clearing family until the investigation is over, right? Until you have a suspect in custody. I haven't seen that in other cases. So that's interesting. I don't know if you've discussed it, but in the last hour, there's been this discussion about this blue shirt that was left and found on the rocks in front of Nancy Guthrie's home. Someone from the media or Pima County came out and clarified that that's a blue shirt from Border Patrol. So Border Patrol had their K9 units out there, and they're claiming that blue shirt. I think it just speaks volumes to the sloppiness of Pima County in this case. Information like that's been out for 2 weeks with people questioning whose shirt is it, whose gloves are, there's 16 gloves out there, whose gloves are those? Even the way they did the search at Annie and Tommaso's home that night, like if it was a consensual search, just say that right from the get-go. That evening, this is not a court authorized search, this is consensual, and put it out there so people stop speculating.
Right.
There's that natural reaction in true crime where people do, like I said, go to the family as the first culprits. But I don't think Pima County has done anything to diminish that. And then to come out yesterday and say, look, we've cleared them. And maybe they have, right? They have their laptops, they have their phones, they've gone through, they've processed their vehicle in their home. But that's not to say that a culprit can't have a burner phone that they don't know about, communicating with someone else or a third party. So there's a lot here that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right. Because I mean, I've never believed that it was Annie or Tommaso, certainly not Savannah or Cameron. But everybody, there was a lot of heat on Annie and Tommaso. They were the last ones that we know of that have seen Nancy alive outside of this perpetrator that was seen on the porch. But even if they weren't the ones that were in the ski mask on the porch, that's not to say that they don't know this person. That's not to say that they don't have any connection to this person. That's not to say that they couldn't have potentially hired somebody. I mean, my theory could have been maybe something happened to Nancy earlier in the night and this was a stage kidnapping, because nothing about it just, I mean, you've done this for so many years. How common is it that you're snatching up an 84-year-old woman? I said that's like taking a newborn baby or a young toddler. Like, it's too much of a liability.
There's a demographic we look for in trafficking, right? And that's typically not toddlers and not elderly women. There's a market for sex trafficking, and that's not the market. There's a market for these type of crimes, and it doesn't seem to be the market. Yeah, I don't know. And I think adding to the confusion, we saw brief periods of surveillance footage from her Nest camera. We didn't hear audio with that. We know that Nest records audio. We didn't see timestamps. We know that Nest has timestamps. And so there's just so many unknowns and questions about why are they releasing it this way? Why no audio? First of all, if you're able to restore video, that audio is associated with the video. So why didn't we hear that audio, and why don't we see timestamps? That's left, again, for a lot of speculation. I've speculated from the start that this type of crime, I think that there's two people involved. I think seeing those floodlights in the rear, seeing this person in the front, I just believe that this would have taken two people to pull off. And there's a lot of unknowns, and I think at the fault of Pima County Sheriff.
Yeah, and I don't understand if this is a pissing match between the Pima County Sheriff and the FBI, and the sheriff is not allowing them access. We've heard reports that there was a contentious relationship between them, that he was withholding evidence, he was withholding information, which does make sense. I mean, not only have we had the president come out and confirm those details by saying that local authorities won't turn the case over to the FBI, but we also saw that like the FBI was doing additional searches many days after the initial searches, which to me was like, it told me, because again, all we're left to do is kind of speculate and put these pieces together because we're not getting answers or information. So that told me, with the reports of this conflicting relationship between the two teams, that the FBI decided, we're just going to do our own investigation and we're going to go search the premises ourselves. So to us as the public, that feels late to be doing that. But I think they only did that because, based off of the reports that we've gotten, the sheriff's team was not turning over information to the FBI, or they were withholding information. So then you have two investigations that are going on the same turf. And you also have to factor in, I mean, and how abnormal was it that the alleged crime scene, which was Nancy Guthrie's home, was never roped off? Like Brian Enton was able, and he's a great guy, and I think he's been doing an incredible job covering this case, but he was able to walk right up to the porch of Nancy Guthrie and take photos and video of her blood on the porch.
It's abnormal. Everything we've seen is abnormal. Clearing the scene originally, then coming back, and I don't know what that rear camera means, right? I don't know if the law enforcement there spoke to the family and said, do you know of any cameras? And they sort of said, okay, well, there's a one ring camera on the front, and didn't know about that rear camera. I don't know if that camera on the guest house was placed there by the perpetrators. And yeah, to agree with you, I've said this from the beginning on X, as you know, it seems like the FBI and Pima County Sheriff, like they're both on their own separate side quests, and neither one is talking to each other. And then when news breaks, we hear these statements that they're working together. But look, if they were working together, I think they would have used the FBI's DNA processing lab at Quantico. I don't think they would have sent it off to Florida. I think that we would see results that are different right now if these agencies were working together. Also, last night I held an X space, and people came on that are local and privy to both Tucson area law enforcement and then just residents there. And this Pima County Sheriff's Department has had internal issues of its own. And we see that. You don't even have to talk to residents. We see that with Brian Etten interview, a sergeant that's also the union president, speaking out about sort of what's going on there. And he's able to speak out because he's a union president. Other people aren't speaking out because it seems like this sheriff has a real big ego. It's been reported that the pilot, the first 24 hours when Nancy went missing, they had a plane, it had FLIR or thermal, and the pilot was put on street patrol because of issues with the sheriff. And that's just not good police work. You got to put your ego to the side and do what's right. And sounds like the sheriff has a big ego problem. I think people notice that right from the get-go on these press conferences. Also very forgetful. Like one day, this is not targeted or it is targeted. And then the press would come back and be like, well, you said this. He's like, well, I don't remember. It's just, this is a clown show.
I think he has a big ego, and I think he's enamored by the celebrity profile of the case. And I think the reason he issued, and again, this is all pure conjecture and speculation because we don't have answers. So all we're left to do is put these pieces together. But it appears to me that the Guthrie family saw that there was a lot of speculation around them. And it seems like they, meaning I think Savannah, because he in an interview over the weekend said that Savannah is the one that he's been the most in contact with, not Annie and Tommaso, which is also strange. If there are so many theories that keep leading back to Annie and Tommaso, and he's saying I've had no, and even I think as of this morning, he said that they were cleared very early on in the investigation. Within a matter of days, he cleared them, which to me sounds so abnormal because you always know that the family can always be a suspect, and they're the first ones that you look at in a case like this. But it feels like he's still treating define it like a kidnapping, which to me, and I'm not as savvy as you in these things, but this does not to me fit the profile of a regular traditional kidnapping. Now, could it be abnormal? Sure, but none of the pieces make sense to me. There's no immediate ransom letters. It didn't appear that they contacted the family right away to let them know that Nancy was gone and there was a ransom. No, we didn't get ransom letters until after it became mainstream national headlines. So that to me doesn't sound like somebody that was, especially given the fact that you have a feeble, elderly 84-year-old woman that does not have days upon days to sit up in a warehouse while you hold her hostage waiting for some ransom money.
Yeah, I will say I don't think I've ever been privy to a kidnapping ransom. And like, there's never been a case. And I think the reason for that is that in terms of statistics from the FBI and US Department of Justice, there is 100, maybe a year, 100 to 150 true kidnapping ransom cases. I just never followed one. But looking at the stats, this is not the way it's typically done. You don't double the amount. You don't set multiple deadlines. This is similar to a burglary or robbery, right? Your job is getting in and out as quickly as possible to get stuff that helps you financially, whether that's jewelry, credit cards, cash, whatever it may be. But you're not hanging around in there taking off big screens off the wall. That none of this makes sense. The kidnapping, I think it gave people hope at the beginning, which everyone needed for Nancy, right? It gave you that hope and that warm, fuzzy feeling inside that Nancy was coming home. But we saw that shift from Savannah Guthrie, we'll pay. And then within 24 hours, a new video is released and she just breezes right by it, doesn't mention it. And, I've said that it seems to me that Secret Service alongside the FBI have credible intel that this came from a different country, right? Because we saw a man they were already able to trace it to one of these, to a man in California. If they were able to trace this to someone in the United States, if they're able to trace one A, they're able to trace the other, right? And I think that this came from outside our country, and they sort of deemed it incredible. I don't know. This has been a lot. Like, I'm exhausted. I think other people are exhausted. And I don't think it ends anytime soon. I think if we watch other cases where we're going to see similar DNA techniques used, it'll probably be another 2 to 3 weeks before we actually know. And this is a wild shot. This whole glove, as you said, like a criminal tossing a glove out like 2 miles away. Like, you and I are not criminals. And we know if we committed a crime, like, I can just go into any random Burger King, toss the gloves in the trash, and they're in the landfill in 2 days, like never to be seen again. So the idea that you're just tossing them on the side of the road seems asinine to me.
Or the fact that they just bought a gun within the days leading up to it, and hopefully you'll recognize one of the 40 faces that they're showing you. And these are not 40 headshots. I'm sure these are, maybe some photos that aren't the clearest. But we do have an update. We just got an update right now on. It looks like the DNA. Michael Rees on X is reporting Sheriff Nanos just told Fox News' Jonathan Hunt that the DNA sample from the DNA sample from in the Nancy Guthrie case has been run through the FBI data database and did not have a match. The unknown DNA inside the house is also not a match for DNA found on the glove, considered a possible match to one worn by suspect in the doorbell video. FBI confirms the sheriff's statement. Well, look at that. The FBI will confirm a sheriff's statement when it's something that they feel is valid and legit. I didn't think that this glove was going to turn anything up. Let's see. There are currently no press. This is from the Pima County Sheriff's Department less than 5 minutes ago. There are currently no press briefings scheduled. Should a significant development occur, a press conference will be announced. Media will be notified via email. And the Pima Sheriff's X account, PCSD, says there's more DNA evidence being tested. No word yet on its evidentiary value. Okay. So there's the update on the glove. Nothing. A whole lot of nothing and more nothing.
They're not going to be in CODIS, right? If this is a podcaster's glove, if this was EMS's glove, these people don't have criminal backgrounds. If this was law enforcement's glove, they're not criminals registered in CODIS. So I think it's what we assume, that this was a red herring and we weren't going to see anything. It's a long shot. It was a long shot. And now it sounds like that's panning out.
But not only that, because when I first heard the news, this was what, Sunday? Yeah, because I was at the airport. And it didn't make sense to me that they said that the glove appeared to match the person. That there were two theories, that there was the glove and they had DNA on the glove, and that could potentially be the person on the porch, and that could potentially be a match to the unspecified DNA that was found inside the house. Now, to me, even if you were able to pull DNA off this glove and you don't have a match for the DNA that's inside the house, then even if the glove matched the DNA inside the house, you still have an unidentified individual, right? You don't know who this person is. So even if you have a match of the two DNA specimens, that it's still this individual has still not been identified. Or am I misunderstanding that?
No, you got it right. And I mean, we're jumping ahead. What we saw in the video was a man that looked to be wearing nitrile gloves over a regular pair of gloves. It looks like, you have all these experts coming on TV saying this was, an amateur. Well, if it's an amateur, we'd have arrested someone by now. And with that, it looks like they took great lengths to make sure that their DNA wasn't left on the scene, including gloves over gloves. That's what it's always appeared to me. I may be wrong, but yeah, they don't have. I mean, this was a long shot on these gloves. It just never made sense. You have 16 pairs of gloves out there. To assume one looks like them when it looks to us like, I don't know that the FBI would have any other view besides the one that we've seen. You could lighten it up, you can brighten up the contrast, but those look to be like nitrile gloves over thicker gloves. Like, it doesn't look to be his hands. Yeah. But that's my take.
The gloves were a long shot. The video was a long shot because the most we got from the video was that it's an unidentified man with an average build who's probably around 5'10", which that really narrows it down. And now we have 40 potential photos of people that we're going to start just, going through different local gun shops, assuming that they even just purchased this gun locally. I mean, it could be somebody from out of state. It could be a gun that they've had for a long time. It could have been a gun that's unregistered. Like, there are so many factors that all of the things that they seem to be exploring just seem really like we're just taking a shot in the dark. We're looking for a needle in a haystack. And I'm like, how does a grown elderly woman just completely go missing? We have no body. We have no leads. Like, to me, everything about that seems so strange.
I think this is going to force law enforcement's hand, the FBI's hand, in releasing more footage. We know that there's more footage, right? There has to be footage of Nancy coming home. There's a lot of questions on that. I don't question that due to the Bluetooth sync, right, on the phone after 2 a.m. We know she came home because that would have never connected to the phone otherwise, and the phone was left behind. But I think that we're going to see some new surveillance footage soon. If they don't have any more leads from this glove, I think that's the next step.
It has to be. I mean, they have to have footage. I would imagine Annie and Tommaso have a Ring camera. There has to be footage there. I would imagine. I mean, and if we can really clear Annie and Tommaso, I feel like that's a valid timeline that we can then put together to release to the public. We saw in the initial press conferences, they had a really loosely put together timeline, but it at least gave us some sense of idea of like, okay, she was here at this time, and then by this time she appears to have gone home, and from there she disappeared between this hour, and then her heart rate monitor stopped at this hour. So I feel like there's a lot more information that they could reveal publicly. It's uncertain why they haven't. I understand they can't reveal all of the details because then, it's an open and active investigation, but I just feel like they could provide a lot more clarity given the high profile nature of this case. I mean, even when you had the assassination of Charlie Kirk, like, details about Tyler Robinson were being released from the FBI within hours of it happening. By the end of the day, by the next day, there was so much information that they were able to put out to the public that then was able to locate the individual, and then Tyler Robinson was arrested. At this point, I honestly don't think we're gonna get closure to this case. I think it's gonna end up being a cold case, and I think we're just not gonna have any real answers. And I think if the family's not really pushing for answers, then that kind of tells me, based off of Savannah's tone in some of her videos, based off of, her word choices in some of these videos. And I hate picking apart somebody that is very visibly distraught and grieving, but a lot of it doesn't make sense. As you said, they were ready to pay the ransom. And then next thing you know, Savannah has a completely different tone. She shows up in a new location, no longer has her siblings, now has makeup on. And I didn't judge her then. And then we got the newest video, and it seems like she's talking to somebody directly, as if this alleged kidnapper, like, I don't even know if I buy that she believes that this is still a kidnapper that's been holding her mom hostage for 14 days. What, this old lady snatcher is just keeping Nancy with some crackers and some water in a warehouse for 2 weeks, and she's suddenly going to appeal to their compassion? It doesn't make any sense to me.
And it changes the way searches are done, right? Hanging on to this hope and giving the public this sense that, they believe Nancy is still alive, that maybe they have credible information from the FBI that's truly the case. But if it's not, it changes how quickly closure comes to this case. There are organizations out there that specialize in this. They'll come out with horses and dogs, Adventures with Purpose and Cajun Navy. There would be different type searches occurring on the ground versus what we're seeing here if we had factual information. And I will say, I don't want to judge a woman that's grieving her appearance and how she's talking. I've heard that rumor that she appears to be talking to someone. I don't know if that's the case, but I do know that in every one of these videos, it's scripted, and I believe it's done with the FBI. But I sort of question why, Savannah was on the Today Show every single morning, afar from Arizona, right? And Annie and Tommaso were closest to Nancy from what we can see. They were the ones driving her back home. They were the ones 11 minutes away. Why aren't they on video making these pleas? That part seems a little odd to me. And it may just be, look, they're not as comfortable with Savannah being in the public spotlight, but I feel like all of that goes away. Like, I have anxiety speaking in large groups, but if someone that I love dearly, with my kids, my girlfriend, like, I'm going to change up with that sadness, right? I'll do anything to bring them home. And the fact that we haven't seen Annie, and I mean, they sat next to her, right? But they didn't say a word. Annie didn't say a word. Cameron in that first video didn't say a word. He then came out with his own video and realized that he had to fly in. So again, that means that he was farther away in distance to Nancy when Annie was the closest one in proximity, and to not make a statement, I think, is adding to a lot of people's speculation. I don't know if there's anything to read into it, but I do think that people have the right to read into something like that and ask questions.
I mean, even the change up in Annie's behavior in the first video, like, people were judging her very early on, and I reserved that judgment because I was like, listen, she just lost her mother. This has to be extremely traumatic. To me, it appeared that she was like heavily sedated. And to me, I was like, the fact that she's not showing emotion is not a red flag, because Cameron was behaving very similarly, right? Savannah was the only one that was really showing any raw emotion, but I think because the other two were on some mood stabilizers or something, which would be totally within the realm of reason, considering the circumstances. But then in the second video, we see Annie, who appeared to be much more emotional, which was a complete switch up and almost felt a little performative, but we didn't hear anything from Annie. And being that she was the closest to her mother, I would have thought that there would be some sort of emotional appeal to keep the public interested, that when Savannah went solo, that then also added to the speculation of like, well, why is she no longer appearing in videos with her sister when the public is starting to question her sister? Is there some tension behind the scenes? Like, there was just there were so many pieces, right, that were adding to this theory that Annie and Tommaso were potentially in on it, that I don't think it's fair for the sheriff to then come out and scold the public for running wild with that speculation, considering they didn't do anything to diffuse it, and everything that the public was seeing was just further adding to that speculation.
As how I found you, Eva showed me your videos, and you use humor as much as I do. And I jokingly said when I first saw that video, it looks like Annie's the hostage in the situation, like just her sitting on that couch, and it looked bizarre.
Yeah.
But again, I don't. It's hard to judge. Like, we worked a lot of cases, and it's hard to judge how people process things. Everyone processes grief differently, loss differently, trauma differently, and so it's hard to judge her. But with that, like it's a little strange. Like I feel like the first thing that I would do if it was my mother, like, hey, like give a compelling story to the public. You were the last person to see her. She was over my house and we were playing whatever. We were playing cards. We had a dinner together. But we haven't heard any of those details. And I think that's what's leading to a lot of speculation here.
Do you have a theory? Obviously, we don't know anything for certain. Everything at this point is pure conjecture, but based off of the cases that you've covered and seen in the past, and based off of the details that we've gotten so far, do you have any sort of theory on what you think may have happened to Nancy, or how long it could take before we get any real answers?
I truly don't. And I think that's what's most frustrating here is that you go one direction with this. Like originally, started digging, and Savannah's ex-husband used to work for Al Jazeera and BBC, and he did some stories in Mexico on the cartel and corruption there and the police. And like, I immediately went to that scenario. But as you think through that scenario, the cartel makes billions every day on drugs, trafficking drugs, right? They don't need $3 million or $6 million, and they don't need the national attention or international attention on their organization. So that doesn't make sense. A kidnapping seems like the most likely. I think but again, the data where we are today, that doesn't make sense either. Burglary, robbery, like we don't have any other. So we don't have footage of cars in that neighborhood because everyone's Ring camera is so far back from the driveway, right? But the astronomical odds of someone randomly picking Savannah Guthrie's mother's house to rob and burglarize them versus all those other houses, right? There's nothing flashy about her house. When you go look at the other properties, they're all about the same. She doesn't have a flashy car. It's a Subaru. Like, why choose this individual to rob? The odds of hitting someone that is so famous seems improbable to me. So I don't have a theory. Originally, it was kidnapping. Originally, just because of the tensions in this country, right? We swapped over from Minneapolis to this case real quick, and there was tensions that were related to border. But it looks like even looking at Nancy's interests, her web activity, the Facebook groups that she joined, she seemed to be in support of immigrants, right? She was part of a group that liked to take these families these immigrants into their own homes to support them. And I think where I'm at right now, like, is that a possible scenario? Did she take someone into that guest house? Did she help someone? We've thought about the electrician that did work for her in January. And it's certainly interesting that work stopped on January 5th or 6th. And police are now looking for ring activity between January 1st and February 1st. But this case is all over the place. If I was to tell you what my one main theory was, I'd be lying to you. I don't know. This is every day the data on this case is changing and changing my view and my opinion of what happened here.
I think, though, everything that you listed, random burglary, kidnapping, all these potential scenarios that I think we've all gone over and tried to overanalyze in our head don't check out, which to me tells me that whatever the real story is, the theories that we're going with initially here, I don't think that this is a kidnapping. I don't think that this was a burglary gone wrong. I don't think that this is the cartel. I don't think that this is an Epstein distraction. I mean, even if you want to talk about psyops, personally, I'm just like, well, sure, it would make sense why certain news agencies would cover the story more, but I don't think that this was staged to be a deliberate psyop to distract the public from Epstein. There are a number of different ways that you can do that a random old lady for a Today Show co-host doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Nothing about the case makes sense, which tells me that this story of just, their mom getting kidnapped in the middle of the night doesn't add up to me. But
on the same token, I will say there's I'll buy into the Annie and Tommaso scenario once someone gives me a motive, once someone shows me data, like they were in debt but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense either for them to have a long-standing good relationship with an 84-year-old woman and to wake up one night and be like, you know what? I'm going to have someone go snatch her. Like That to me, like, give me some evidence or show me
Unless
data.
they didn't have a good relationship, right? Because I've also seen theories of like, well, they did just buy a new home. There could have been some financial stress. They appear to be Nancy's caretakers. I've heard potential theory, like obviously, because when it comes down to the family, it's always motivated by one of three things. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually money. It's usually some sort of, crime of passion, or there's some sort of scarcity, right? You have to act in the moment because you're going to get caught because you're doing something wrong. And if we play with those theories, there could be a money element. We don't know what their financial status was. And again, this is why it's challenging to put these theories together, because we don't know so many of the details, but it's possible that, she's a poet and he's a teacher from what we know. They don't have high, executive jobs. They don't own, successful, profitable businesses. Like, Savannah appears to be the most successful in the family. So it's not without, the realm of reason to think that there may have been some financial tensions, or that maybe Nancy was helping them out financially in some way, or that as Nancy's caretakers, they had access to her financials and maybe were, not using those finances as kosher as they should have been. And maybe they were about to get caught. Maybe Nancy discovered something. Maybe there was some tension that may have gotten them taken out of a will or something. All of things which I'm sure the FBI is looking into. But I think, to me, there being some sort of financial strain and there being some threat of connection as to why. I don't think that they would deliberately try and harm Nancy, but it could have been something accidental. It could have been, a staged kidnapping gone wrong. There are a number of different theories, but every theory that seems to logically make more sense than a random burglary or a cartel seems to lead back, in my opinion, from my own gut instincts, back to Annie and Tommaso. But again, we don't know. There's a reason Sheriff Nanos cleared them unilaterally. So I don't know. There has to be more to the story that we're not getting.
I think the journalists on the ground need to do better than, these glove stories, which, they get a lot of clicks, they get a lot of retweets, but at the end of the day, it turned out to be a big nothing burger. Do some real investigative journalist work, right? Go find out why that Adult Protective Services card was on the front door. Was it before or after? Even small things like that. Why was it on the door? Was there issues before? I think stuff like that would be more helpful than the clickbait that we're seeing. And you're right. It's typically, right, money. We always say in all of these cases, follow the money first. And then you're looking at romantic or emotional motives, really, is what we're looking at. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a solid answer for you. I just, this case has consumed, I think, the public's mind, my mind, your mind.
Yeah.
And I don't know when it stops. Like there's evenings where I go to bed and I'm still looking at choppers. I'm still looking at bullshit. And, I'm learning a lot about Tucson. There's a lot of hit and run in Tucson. There's a lot of crime in that area. We had a active law enforcement come in last night and confirm, like, it's not a pretty area once you go outside this 5-mile radius of Nancy's house. And I don't know, maybe that's why law enforcement is looking within a specific radius for ring camera footage. I think that the next step is giving the public a full view into what happened that night on that Nest camera. What time did Nancy come home? What kind of state did she look like, right? Well, she's not wearing a mask, so we can see, was she angry? Was she sad, perhaps, to give us an inkling of what happened here? But without some of this extended footage that we're not seeing, without the audio, without timestamps, it's really hard for the public to piece this together.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think a lot of the journalists that are boots on the ground in Arizona right now, it's time for them to start digging in other areas, because it appears every time there's another SWAT raid or, glove. At first, I think there was a natural interest in trying to see if there were any leads there, but now I think it's at the point where it's time to start looking at other options and digging deeper beyond this kidnapping story, because none of it makes sense and none of it seems to be checking out. Whether it's the DNA or the limited footage that they're giving people, or, it's time to start looking in other areas.
Or let go of egos, right? And for Pima County to say, we're giving this over to the FBI. They were really good at beekeeping, right? They had an incident where they took care of the bees. We're good at that, not so good at this, and we're going to hand it over to the FBI. But until someone checks their ego here. And another thing here is, on these cases, we typically see pressers at least every 2 days, right? We haven't seen a presser in over a week. So it's natural for the public to speculate. We're not getting any official information, even from the journalists. You saw the other day a journalist putting out a statement on the glove, and then someone like, this is not accurate, or like two journalists going back and forth about their sources, and it doesn't seem to be accurate. It doesn't seem to line up with other journalists. And let's hear it right from the horse's mouth. Get up on the stage, give us a presser, let a lot of this bullshit slide over once you do a presser, but they refuse to do it, and I think it's causing speculation.
Yeah, I mean, and then because there's no official statement or press conference, even if it's weekly or just something regularly, I think that would alleviate a lot of the confusion. But I think that then has all of these different reporters with different sources, right? Look at Ashley Banfield, Brian Enton. Everybody has sources, many of which aren't coming forward. And we don't know, are these FBI sources or are these family sources? Are these sheriff's department sources? Because that could be why the information is conflicting and why people are so strong with standing by their sources, because they appear to be good sources, but it's the information that appears to be conflicting.
Using the FBI sources, we've seen consistently on these cases. The statement today seems to be the truest FBI statement today, which is, we have nothing to add. The FBI is typically tight-lipped on these cases. They don't comment. And so these investigators that go out and say, my FBI source, anyone can say, I can go out on X and say, my FBI source said a monkey driving with its feet was seen in the area. And nobody can go back to the FBI and say, is this true? Because the FBI will say, no comment, right? I think we need to see better journalism on the ground. This is not helping anything. The contention, the misinformation, it's not helping this case at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, Nerdy, thank you for coming on. Thank you for chatting with us. Thank you for giving us your insight. And hopefully we get some answers soon. And I mean, ideally, all I want is some closure for Nancy above all. And, and for this Guthrie family, who I'm sure is just completely riddled with grief and sorrow and under an immense amount of stress. So hopefully we get some answers soon.
I appreciate you having me on your channel. Eva, my partner in crime, wanted to give you a shout out. She's how I found you. So she loves your content, and keep doing what you're doing. I know that you do some serious stuff and you do some humor. And I think that this case needs that right now. I think people need that kind of humor and appreciate what you're doing. So thanks for having me up.
Thank you. I appreciate you both. All right, guys, give him some love. Give him a follow. You can follow him at nerdy_addict on X. Lots of unanswered questions, right? Lots of just questions with no real answers, and a lot of speculation, and a lot of maybe this or maybe that, and I hope this and I hope that. And like, at the end of the day, I think we just need to continue to hope for the best, pray for the best, hope that there's some closure that comes to this case soon. Transparently, I'm probably going to be moving on from the Nancy Guthrie case. At this point, we're 17 days in and we don't have any real answers. So I'll give you any pressing updates as they come up, similar to like the Blake and Baldoni case, right? We've covered that extensively. And even at some point, it's like we can't talk about it every single day. So we let that dissipate. So as new information comes up, as breaking information, I'm not going to report on every single glove, but as breaking information comes, I'll be sure to talk about it here on No Filter. But tomorrow, just expect it's probably not going to be all Nancy. We'll follow wherever the news cycle takes us. But thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And this Sunday, we have episode 2 of the Tour Tapes, which is airing on YouTube and on Spotify. It's going to be fun. Let me know what you guys thought of the first episode. I've seen a lot of good feedback for the Tour Tapes episode 1 in Dallas. Next up, we have episode 2 in Phoenix. Yeah, if you want ad-free episodes, bonus content, bonus episodes, book club. Our next book is going to be Lisa Rinna's book. We're going to be diving into that, get some more fun pop culture goodness. So stay tuned. Look at Billy says Tour Tapes episode 1 was so good. Yay, I'm glad. Thank you. All right. Love you guys. Appreciate you. I will talk to you tomorrow. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe, do all the things. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Love you. Appreciate you. Go give Nerdy some love at nerdy_addict on X. He's also on YouTube as well. So shout out to the Nerd Bird Mafia. All right, guys. Bye.